You play e4 in the spirit of Bobby Fischer. You hope for a great game with tactics and sacrifices galore. But no, what's this? Your opponent plays e6, the French defense. What cowardice! You look up in disgust as your opponent has a sly smirk on their face.
They've deprived you of your chance of glory, and now all you can hope for is a dull, strategic game that's more closed than a bank on Christmas Day.
Would you like to punish your opponent for such depravity?
And make them rue the day that they ever decided to clutch their e-pawn and play their pathetic French defense against you?
Well, now you can with the infamous Wing Gambit. Watch as you play the elegant before pawn push and see the opponent's soul leave their body. No boring game for us. We want some fighting chess. Let me give you a few examples of how to destroy the French defense.
We start off with e4, they play e6 and now knight f3, d5, and we will play e5. Black grabs space in the center with c5, and now we surprise our opponent with before hitting out at their center and sacrificing a pawn.
Sometimes black may wish to avoid the exchange. If knight to c6, then pawn takes c5, bishop takes c5 and d4, bishop b6, bishop d3, knight g to e7 and c3 is very pleasant for white, with no pawn sacrifice and nice development.
Black also has to be careful as moves like castle simply lose to bishop takes h7 with a Greek gift sacrifice followed by king takes and knight g5 check, and it's game over for black. Other moves like ung6 also suffer to white's kingside attack with h4, h5, and now knight g5 where white threatens knight takes f7 followed by queen to f3 check. Other moves black can play to avoid the gambit are c4.
We should play c3, and if a5 we play b5. After knight d7 we play d4, grabbing the center with no issues.
If en passant, then we take with the bishop and have no issues in this game.
Another avoidance attempt is b6.
We again will play c3, and after knight c6 hit the knight with b5 which jumps to a5, and again we will play d4 with an even yet unbalanced game. Precisely what black hoped to avoid in the French defense. The last try to avoid the gambit is d4, but after pawn takes c5, bishop takes c5 and bishop to d3 the position is fairly even. Black may have chances to gang up on the e5 pawn, for instance knight c6, castles, knight g to e7, rook e1, bishop d7, bishop e4, knight g6, d3, queen c7, knight b to d2, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes. White can play nb3 and has sufficient compensation as black now must put their bishop somewhere. d4 is under threat and queen h5 is also coming.
Now that we have covered the avoidance lines, we can have a look if black captures on before. Once black takes, I recommend the move d4.
This stops black from playing d4 first, which can be rather annoying. Play may continue knight c6, a3, pawn takes a3 and now c3.
White has a lovely pawn chain and will recapture a3 when they wish.
Normal moves now for black are bishop d7, and now white typically plays normal moves like bishop to d3 dominating the white squares. Black plays knight g to e7. White recaptures their pawn, and now moves like a6 and h4 are fairly typical for the position. To get good at the Wing Gambit you must play many games to practice the positions. Typically the h4 and g4 pawn pushes are good when black moves their knight to g6 and f5. Also always keep an eye out for a swift king side attack with a Greek gift sacrifice. If the king side attack fails, consolidate and try to swing to the queen side and use the open A and B files to your rook's advantages.
With proper play, white's position is worthy of the sacrificed pawn.
Let's now take a look at a typical Wing Gambit game played between Martins and Crays. In this game white plays a3 instead of d4 first, but it transposes. Black takes on a3, white plays c3, and now knight c6, d4, bishop d7 and bishop d3 with a typical Wing Gambit. Black now played the unusual knight to a5 and white perhaps prematurely plays knight to g5. Black was probably scared of knight takes h7 so played g6.
Now white can smell blood and plays h4. Whilst black kicks the knight with h6. But now comes a typical Wing Gambit plan. Knight takes f7. The king recaptures and now queen to f3 check with white's pieces bearing down on black's position. The king goes to g7 and now white crashes in with bishop takes g6. If the king recaptures, there comes h5 check, king to g7 and queen to g4 with black having to give up their queen.
In the game, knight to f6 was played and white really let go of the advantage. Her white should play h5 to support the bishop, then should play queen to g3. In the game, white played queen to g3 first and now black played rook to g8.
White regains the piece with check, queen captures and now h5.
The king retreats and now white plays bishop to f4, preparing bishop e5. Black plays bishop g7, white develops and knight c4 is played.
White now holds the advantage.
Knight takes knight, pawn takes c4 and rook takes a3 finally leaves white with equal material but a better position. a5 followed by castles and bishop to e8. The rook came to a1 and there was a trade of bishops followed by queen f5, bishop c7 and bishop f6.
White is now in the driving seat. White took on a5 with an exchange of rooks.
Black throws in a check, the king retreats and the rook captures g6 with the queen going to f3. Both sides have made a few mistakes but black makes a big one with bishop to g7. Rook a8 check followed by queen f7 is super strong for white, threatening mate.
But white plays rook to a7 instead.
Rook g5 from black allows white to pick up b7 and the queen jumps back to g6.
g3 shares up white's position. Black goes rook to f5 but white blocks. Black retreats the rook and white hides their king. But after a few more moves, it's clear after rook to c5 white is in the driving seat. White picks up another free pawn and after a series of exchanges white just has too much. Although not a perfect game, this game illustrates how tricky wing gambit positions can be. This game was very random and will make your opponents think twice before picking up that e-pawn and playing a French against you. I hope this video was useful to you. Go now and practice your wing gambit. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like, a comment or subscribing for more chess content.